Hi everybody, welcome to Tim's Final Confessions. I'm Tim Durling. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. One of the things that I definitely wanted to do when I started doing the show is shed some light on some of my favorite bands that aren't the household names and aren't the rock bands that you automatically hear about all the time. And of course I'm talking about bands like Y&T, Coney Hatch, and one of my favorite sort of unsung bands from the 80s, even though they have more famous ties, is Vandenberg. And if you're a Whitesnake fan, you know the name Vandenberg because of guitarist Adrian Vandenberg. They are one and the same. It was his self-titled band. He played all the guitars, any keyboards, wrote all the songs, and even did the artwork. They had a very brief career. They only did 3 albums, but I think all 3 of them are absolute gems. So on this episode, I'm going to go through my Vandenberg cassette collection in the hopes that somebody out there will be curious enough to check out this band. Actually have a more expanded Vandenberg episode in the next few months that me and my old buddy John did. So stay tuned for that. For now, I'm just going to go over the cassettes. I'm not going to get into too much how I get into this band. I'm just going to talk about the music. First Vandenberg album is the best known one, the one that you're probably most likely to see. It came out in 1982. It was self-titled, and that's what the cover looks like. Very striking, especially on vinyl. It's on Atco Records, which is Atlantic, same basic thing. This is a US cassette, and just great melodic hard rock. Burning Heart, one of the best power ballads of the 80s, was a top 40 single for them, should have done much better, and contains, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's my all-time favorite guitar solo. Check it out, it's just the best. Here's what the cassette itself looks like, pretty typical of the time. And unlike the Canadian version, which was the first one I had, this one actually has credits in it, the band members and thank yous and things like that. Pretty quick getting another one out in 1983, Heading for a Storm, the second Vandenberg album. This one you can see Adrian did the artwork on himself. He's a realist, super realist as a matter of fact. And it looks better on vinyl, so seek it out on vinyl. Same producer, Stuart Epps, and the only other place I've ever seen Stuart Epps' name is he produced Twisted Sister's You Can't Stop Rock and Roll album. Similar dry drum sound to this, but very fitting. Works. This is a US cassette as well on Atco. And there's the back. Again, the tape looks about the same, and pretty similar inside of it too, some credits as well. And 2 years later, the third and final Vandenberg album came out. Different in some ways. Alibi, again, really cool artwork by Adrian himself. This is again on Atco Records. By this time, the cassettes look more like this. And again, this is a US edition. And this is when the clear cassettes started coming out. I always thought these were so cool, so striking. If anybody remembers the blank cassettes you get, I think they were Memorex that you could see through them. They're all colorful. Anyway, they had these in the States before they had them in Canada. Just inside the J card there, not lyrics, but credits and some thank yous. So, of course, Adrian joined Whitesnake, not on the 1987 album, with the exception of the guitar solo from Here I Go Again. And of course, he was in all the videos. As was that entire band. They weren't part of the album, so him and Vivian Campbell, Rudy Sarzo, Tommy Aldridge, you know the story with Whitesnake if you're a fan. But so after he had that higher profile from being in Whitesnake, Atco put out a best of in 1988, which is a smart move, and they should be compiled anyway. That's obviously a Whitesnake era photo. If you've seen the pictures or anything from Vandenberg, they didn't have the dress sense that they would later have, and I don't think his hair was quite that blonde. So best of Vandenberg, just a good compilation. You can't really go wrong with any of them. This is a pretty good broad spectrum across 3 albums as much as you can without doing a double album, and there probably wasn't the market for it. Not that this did very well, but it was put out there in the marketplace and hopefully grabbed a few people's attention. There's a nice write-up in here from Derek Oliver, which basically goes through the history of Vandenberg. And Derek Oliver, of course, a British rock writer, but I'm pretty sure he was also an A&R guy, so he knows his stuff. So I highly recommend you check out this band, and if you're curious about finding out more about them, you know, the internet's out there, or you can stay tuned. We got a very special Vandenberg episode coming up in the next few months. Thank you very much for watching Tim's Final Confessions.